Hey guys, so today we're going to be continuing on with our infographics. This time we're going to be looking at another timeline here. It's going to be a little bit more, I would say, kind of like detail oriented. It's going to have more entries here, but we're going to be using, once again, kind of a color experiment to kind of differentiate the various the various things that we're doing here. So essentially what we've got is two websites that I want you to visit. One is color.adobe.com, right? Color.adobe.com right there. If you click on that, you'll be immediately kind of brought into something like this, and you can kind of move things around and create your own little 5-color palette. And, that's a lot of fun. But the thing is, you click on Explore, and you can see like a bunch of people who've created their own palettes and stuff. You want something like this. This is I'm not really sure what the name here is, Copia de Grises Atlas. I'm not really sure what that is. The whole idea is that these are all kind of similar in terms of their, shall we say, saturation level. They're all sort of desaturated, but they're also variant in hue. Now, the only thing I would say look at is I would look at maybe this one. So if I can just sort of edit right here, this one right here. We've got this thing. I might make this a bit darker, but keep it in terms of its saturation. So it's like here. Maybe change it in terms of its brightness. Can I look at my HSB? So take my brightness down some to maybe like 50 or so. And maybe 70. Right. Maybe 80. Okay. The idea being, and then maybe I might take this this one down some too, because this one's a bit too dark. It's hard to see. Kind of if we would put the same. It's a bit darker than the other colors here, so I might make it just a little bit lighter in hue. Okay, here we go. We've got this little guy right here. We can kind of pull that up a little bit. Same thing with this one. We can kind of pull this down some. Right. Okay, so I like these 5 colors here. You choose whatever 5 colors you like. Once again, you want to make sure they're variant in hue, but they're sort of similar in terms of their saturation. This one needs to be a little bit desaturated here, I would say. It's really good. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to just kind of copy this this little thing here. So if you want to look at your screen, you should see a button that says FN on the keyboard, right? On your keyboard there towards the bottom. You hold that down, and then you hit above your arrow cursor keys a button that says PRTSCRN, print screen. You click on that, right? You should be able to get a screenshot here. I'm not sure if I have one here on my laptop here, but basically what I would do is I'm going to use the snipping tool. So snipping tool, and I'm just going to sort of snip this here. So once again, the screenshot is just basically, hitting the function button and then hitting the print screen button, so you can get a screenshot. And once you go into Adobe Illustrator here, let's make a new file here. Let's make it, say, for instance, like a sheet of paper, like a letter size. So you go to print and click on letter. It's 8.5 by 11, and back it up a little bit, Control V, and you can just kind of back this up and see if you can't shrink this down some to fit more into your palette here. So this will be your palette, as it were. And we'll get rid of this in a second here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a circle. We're going to create, and we're going to just duplicate it 5 times. Let me just get my move tool, Alt, drag it over a little bit, and then Control D until we have 5 of these. And then one by one, we're just going to click and hit the eyedropper tool just to get that sample color. Oops. So V on the keyboard to get your move tool, select tool. I keep hitting Alt, but V on the keyboard. I to get the eyedropper tool, V, select I. Right. And so now we have these 5 colors here. And you can obviously experiment with them later. If I wanted to, say, for instance, make this a bit brighter, I could go over here, my HSB tab, and sort of make this a bit lighter. That's probably good. If I wanted to maybe change this hue to something a little bit more distinct, I could. Okay, running like that. That's really good. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll just shrink these down a little bit, sort of put them side by side. and we'll use those in our design later on. So I'm just going to put these down at the bottom. Okay, so essentially I want to make this timeline to be kind of going from one side to the other. But before I do that, let's create our little title card here. I'm going to use two title blocks. I'm going to start off just once. I'm going to click once on the keyboard, and I want you to find a script, a handwriting type font. So for instance, this is the one right here, Blackadder is one that I've got. I'm not sure if you have that on your keyboard or on your computer, but something that looks like it's someone writing in cursive. This one right here is called Dope Style. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm going to say history of time for, or history of events. I'll say history of events for, and then I'll make that a bit bigger so I can see it better. History of events for, and then what I'll do is I'll make a new text box here, and I'll change it to a more sans serif style. So say for instance Bison Bold would work, which is what I've got on my computer. If you don't have it, just find another sans serif and see if you can't write this in all caps, and I'll just say history of events for I don't know, video cameras, camera technology, and I'll make that a little bit bigger. You know, just have that resized and have it be just a little bit wider than this right here. So I'll just have these two kind of be side by side, and I'll center these. And it's not like one is more important than the other, but once they're both the same size, I'll just Alt, you know, and kind of shrink them down a little bit. And then I'm going to make myself a little rectangle here that has rounded edges. Let's make the rectangle first. Let's make the rectangle here, and I'm just going to choose a color that's like sort of like one of these, but maybe not so much like the same hue, but like a different sort of like hue with the same saturation. I'll just click down here, maybe make something like a, oh, I don't know, say for instance like a bluish color here. That's probably good. Make it a little brighter. Looks a little bit too much like this, so I'm gonna make it a little bit more teal. A little bit more teal here. That's probably good. And I'll make it brighter and more desaturated and stuff, just to kind of give it a bit of a okay, and then I'll just Control Shift, Control. Back this up. Here. Okay. So again, Control Shift, open bracket, just to put that down, and I'll just grab one of the corners here, make that into a short corner. So I'll just click on these, Control G to group them, and then I'll click on this Shift and click on the square here, and I'll center these words into this little block, and I'll Control G, group this, and I'll center this to the artboard here, and I'll just kind of keep it up there. All right, so this, whatever you decide to put this on, you don't have to, we're not making an actual thing, but what we are going to do is we're going to create a line that goes down the center, hold down Shift with your line tool selected, get your stroke turned on to black, and crank it up, you know, a little bit here, maybe 6 points or so, and then put the stroke with a rounded cap, rounded join, and what we'll do here is we're going to create a series of dates and a series of text sort of boxes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a circle. I'm going to get my rounded my ellipse tool here, and I'm going to create, say for instance, a little circle right about here on top of this. This timeline here, and once again, if you want to choose a different background color, you're welcome to. But whatever it is, choose the fill for your for your circle to be the same color as your background color. So you're going to add a new background color, which I might do. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take my rectangle tool real quick, just pause everything, back it up a little bit, create a rectangle, and if it goes outside of the artboard, that's fine. But I'm going to go to my fill, and I'm going to make it sort of a very neutral kind of cream color here. Hue back a little bit. Yeah, that's probably a good beige color. So this is like H45. You know, it's real neutral color, and I'll just go off-white. And there it is. That looks nice. I might make that a little bit less yellow here. It's probably good. A little more brown. Like that. Okay, that's good. And I'll just kind of leave that kind of hanging out there. I'll just I'm going to get rid of that later. But basically my my circle here should be the same fill. So I'm just going to get the eyedropper tool, and there it is. So then it looks like this is sort of like kind of poking through. All right. So I'm going to take this circle. I'll drag it up a little bit further up here just to kind of have the beginning of my timeline, and then I'm going to get my line tool here, and I'm going to draw a line. Control click here, from the edge out to the right here. And then I'm going to make sure that I have my stroke set to have rounded caps and joins and stuff. That's good. Okay. All right, so with that done, I'll grab one of those circles there, and I'll just pull it up there, and I'll make it a slightly bit bigger. And I'm going to center all of these, make it a little bit bigger here. I'm going to center all these here, just 1, 2, 3. I'm going to center them to one of the shapes. That's good. I might make this a little bit higher on top of it. So, all right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my text tool off to the side, not inside the circle, because if I go inside the circle, it's going to create this. Well, that's fine. And I'm going to choose a different font here. I'm going to actually choose a serif font that's not a script font. So I'm going to choose something like Georgia to do this. So we're going to choose 3 different fonts, and we're doing this because we want to make sure that we're just showing some variety to the fonts we're choosing here. So I'm going to find Georgia, or maybe Cooper. I like Cooper a lot. And I'm going to put, like, you know, a date here, 1976, right? And I'll make this a bit bigger, and I'll turn this white. All right, and I'll just center it to the circle here. So once again, if you click on the date, you hold down Shift, click on the circle behind it, and then you click on the circle again without holding down Shift, you can have that be your key object, and you can center it to there. And what we'll do is we'll just take these 4 objects here. So we've got the circle, the line, the circle that's colored, and the date here. And I'm going to just drag this down, holding down the Alt key and the Shift key at the same time. And I'm going to reproduce that move by pressing Control D a couple times. And then I'm going to do the same thing we did before, where we take, say for instance, the date, the circle, the line, and I'll just like sort of move it down over here, and I'll just sort of switch out the circle to put it right there. And then I'll just sort of pull this off to the side. Ooh, hello. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Now let's move off to the side. I'll center this onto the edge here. Right. Move this over a little bit. Can't seem to nudge for some reason. All right, and then I'll just put this centered on top of there. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll see if I can't click all 4 of these things. And then drag it down like so. And then Control D. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cycle through these various colors here. So this one, I'm going to hit the eye and click on my blue. All right, so I'm going to back and forth V, click, I, click, V, click, I, click, V, I, V. So you can see it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so we'll have those visible here, and we'll probably try to shrink this down a little bit just to make them all fit. Okay. Let me make sure this is covering everything. And I'm going to go here. So I'm going to select this block here, and I'm going to go to Object Lock Selection. So that way I can select everything down here. First off, I'm going to get these circles, so just delete these circles here. And I'm going to click on all this and shrink this down, holding down Alt at the same time here. And I might extend this out some. All right, so I'm gonna just real quick go through and just grab this right here, these 4, Control G. The same thing here. I'm just gonna group all this, Control G. So just bear with me here. Control G. Control G. So group all these together, all these little selections here. And what we'll do is one by one, we'll select all the grouped items here. Make sure I didn't leave anything behind. So So we got this. Okay, good. All right, so essentially what I want to do is I just want to distribute these evenly. Oh, missed that one. Control G. Once again, get everything selected here. Did manage to group all this. All right, good. Okay. All right, good. All right, so I'm just going to move this up to the top, and I'm going to make sure this one here is towards the bottom, and I'm just going to select all these grouped objects here, and then I'm going to go down here for my distribute options. So if you have a line, you can click on these options here, just to find distribute objects, and I'm going to say align to selection, and just to have the vertical spacing distributed evenly, so they're all sort of the same distance apart. All right, and then one by one, I'm going to go through with my text tool, and I'm just going to change the date here. So I'll just change the date to something like 1980, 1984. I'm just going to go up in increments of 4. 1988, 22, 1986, 2000. I got my license there, my driver's license. 2004. Hello. And then 2008. All right, and so this is like, obviously pretty contemporary here, it being for the, video camera, which has been around since the 30s, obviously, or the teens. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our text tool and we're just going to create a little text box next to each one of these things that's sort of centered, and we'll change the font once again to something like, Calibri or some sort of sans serif font. Century Gothic looks good. And we'll make sure that we center the text there, and we'll just sort of alt drag that text around to make sure it's sort of fitting in with the, and this will be our little explanation as far as what happened for each date. Okay. Looks good, and I'll just line all this stuff up with one of these. Line all this stuff up as well with, say, for instance, on the other side. Okay, that's good. And all right, so cool. This is our little timeline here that has a fun little method of using the color to sort of differentiate where things are. Let's once again save our progress here. I'll save it as like timeline 2, and it's okay there. And I'll go to File, Export. Once again, export for screens, and call this timeline 2, and export that. As soon as it's exported, you should be able to see it inside the folder here. So we've got our timeline 1, which you can see is very sort of like centered into, mostly just showing us some basic stuff and not giving us a whole lot of information, to timeline, the next one, where, we have a nice little typographical title to it. We've got some fun little colors going on here, and we've got a little more information, a little more stuff. So I like this little timeline. This is a fun little design. Once again, we want to have 3 different fonts, or 4 different fonts. We've got a script font, a all caps blocky font here. We've got a serif font that's not a script font, and then we've got a sans serif font that's just sort of like your body text here. And obviously make sure everything's centered up, make sure everything is looking like it's following the Gestalt principles of grouping, and very cool. Well, I cannot wait to see what you guys produce.